директно на английски. Се слушаме се, окей? Супер. Okay, hi everyone, my name is Ivan. I'm an iOS developer at Nord47. So on today's topic, I decided to talk about something that, I don't know, I don't think it's covered a lot in general in development, depending on the project that you do. Sometimes it's like specifically done for the to target specific audiences and all that. But my point of this presentation is to talk about accessibility in iOS. Quick thing to mention: initially the first part will be like accessibility in general, so like in mobile development, stuff like that. Then there will be some tidbits like specifically for iOS, and I don't know. There will be you can stop me to ask me some questions in the meantime. There will be a slide where someone can share their own personal experience with this specific topic. So if you want, if you can, please share. It'll be an interesting experience for everyone. So yeah, let's start. So yeah, initially, what is accessibility? So accessibility means that, at least, well, this is for all sorts of like software tools that we use, whether it's apps, websites, desktop applications, so whatever. So for me, accessibility means that your software can be used by literally anyone. So the point is that it's not just the everyday guy that can look at your you can look at your product, that it can be accessed by anyone. So who's that? People with some sort of visual impairment, is it, or maybe a physical impairment? I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of color blindness, or like limited vision in their eyes, or they have trouble using have trouble using like touch screens with their hands or whatever. So this topic is the whole point of this is to offer your software to be used by anyone, and I wanted to cover this. It's not a complex topic, but I think it's cool to see. I think it's cool to see what we can achieve with this. So initially, I just have a question for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a mobile developer, web developer, or I don't know, whatever. Like, how many of you have specifically worked on a software where you have supplied like excessive tools and assistance? Like, you can raise your hand. It doesn't matter now, previously, like currently, in the past. Yeah. So I don't know. I see like 10 people out of this whole group that have worked something. So I don't know. From me, that's sadly expected. Not a lot of companies actually go into this topic. I don't know if it's too much money, or they don't want to care about it. It's just not covered as a topic. So yeah, it's let's get into it. So initially, like, what can you do? So what are the initial do's and don'ts in this specific topic? So these are like very common things, like common UI UX practices. I don't have to say anything about this. Like this isn't about accessible apps. This is about all of the apps, like what colors you use, what types of fonts you use, the how you lay out things on your screen. I'm gonna say screens because I'm an iOS developer, so I'll keep it like that. So how you lay out the elements on the screen, what can be touched, what cannot be touched, stuff like that. So this is common practice, but when you apply accessibility, this is 100% a must. Like, you cannot avoid this. This is a very detailed topic. Especially as far when I was doing a research on this, I saw that in specific countries, specific types of apps are mandatory to have accessibility. Like, I don't know, like I think it was like a government something apps that are used by the government. Like in the US, they have to be accessible. Like for everyday user, I don't know whatever software they have, but it has to be accessible by anyone. So that's definitely it. Next topic is like general, follow defined guidelines. This is also a no-brainer. Like for whatever software you're developing, so whatever software you're developing your product, it's advised to follow like defined guidelines. I don't know, like for example, I didn't know this. Like for example, in iOS, if you have a button, the minimal touch area, like recommended minimum touch area for a button should be 44 by 44 pixels. Like the visuals on the buttons can be smaller, but touch-wise, the thing that you're pressing, it cannot be smaller than 44 by 44 pixels. I've done stuff like that where it's smaller. It's like probably everyone has done something like this, but yeah, like guideline-wise, you cannot do that. Like it's recommended not to do this. Third topic, work with a specialized consultant. This is probably geared toward if your software is geared towards specific types of users for specific types of usage. So I don't know if it's like some sort of medical software, or is it like some sort of like very specialized tools for, I don't know, for like space stuff or whatever. Like it's they have their own defined stuff that it has to be covered. Especially there is also there are like companies that you can hire that can audit your application. They can say, okay, your application for accessibility covers this and topic. But because it has to be used by these types of users, it also has to cover these topics. So it's like very detailed. Depending on the software you do, depending on what you want to achieve, it gets quite complex. External tools. One thing that I would specifically mention is like for color stuff. I personally use stuff like that. Is making sure that you use colors that can be viewed by anyone, no matter their type of color blindness, or like how you match the tools. Like maybe the background of your software with the text and the buttons. Like, are they visible? Are they easy to see? Like there are also external tools where you can put stuff like, okay, like one color or another color, or like a screenshot of the app. It'll say like, okay, like this thing is okay, this thing is not okay. So yeah, there's probably hundreds of stuff. Some may be automated, some require you to do manual work. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Less is more. Usually, I cannot say a lot more about this. Like, don't clog up your applications with a lot of things on the screen. The more stuff you put on a single screen, it's harder to deal with, at least from an accessibility standpoint. Alrighty, this is just a short mention for those people that haven't worked with accessibility with their iOS app. So there is this native feature called VoiceOver, which allows the user to, it basically tells you whatever you're clicking on the whole phone, not just a specific app, so on the whole phone. So you're like scrolling stuff. It tells you like, okay, this is a label, this is a text that has this text on it. This is a button, it has this title, And it's like, when I was working on a software where I had to apply accessibility, this was like the thing that I used on a device directly to test my stuff outside of Xcode. So this was the tool that I used mostly. This thing has a lot of things, like a lot of stuff that you can change, like languages, like the speed of how it's pronouncing stuff and how it's saying stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be your friend basically when you're dealing with stuff like this. So okay, let's start with some easy stuff. When you're defining some sort of visual element, so whether that's like a UI view or or a view or a controller, everything here is in UIKit that I've done in the slides. You can define the accessibility elements that can be reached by the user. So this is like the base way to do it. I'm not gonna talk about clean code and stuff like that. I'm just saying how to use these things. The point is that maybe you'll have like, I don't know, like 40 or 50, I don't know, okay, 50 maybe is excessive, like maybe like 20 different elements that you could maybe interact on the screen, but realistically, for accessibility purposes, you only need a couple of things. So here you will define all of the elements on the screen that user can interactive. Also for VoiceOver, like this is how VoiceOver knows like how things are done, and also specifically for VoiceOver is the order. So depending on how, so this is like in a storyboard on the left. Depending on how you order the things on the screen, there is like in VoiceOver, like when you go like with 2 fingers from top to bottom, it'll like read the whole screen. So it'll go like from top to bottom, like, okay, this is a text, this is a button, this is a the yada, yada, yada. So it's important to have, by default, if you don't have if you don't define it like this, and you only have the order here, it's gonna read the order as you set it over here. So if it also applies for this order on the left, on the right. So yeah, you have to pay attention to the order, because when users use the VoiceOver and stuff like that, and when they like scroll through the elements, it'll scroll to them in a normal hierarchy as expected. So that's just a small tidbit to mention over here. So okay, this is like the big thing to talk about on accessibility. So these are the attributes that you can apply to the elements that are accessible to your screen. So this can be applied to literally anything. So it's not just like buttons, labels. This can be applied to like views and whatever, anything. So it's like fairly linear. You don't have you're not restricted. Like it allows you to do basically anything. So I'll explain it as I go as I go through them one by one so you understand what I mean by that. So initially, like these are the first 5 ones that are more often used. There are other things that also assist to this, but these are the most commonly used ones. There are other ones that weren't really, at least for a short presentation, worth mentioning. So first one is a boolean to say if an element is accessible. So by default, everything is false. Like nothing in the app can be accessed by the user accessibility wise. So you have to manually set it to be accessible. That's the gist of it. Second one is the label. So whatever it is that you're seeing on the, like in this case, a button. If it's the title of the button, in my case, it's like you say confirm. Important thing is that if it's like in my case, this is a confirm button and the title is confirm. You don't write confirm button over here, because you just write whatever you see on the title. Don't write other stuff, because that's covered by the next topic, which is the accessibility trait. Accessibility trait basically is like you basically say what that thing is. Like it's also what it is and what's the current state of it. So you can put it. It's not just one element. You can put an array of this. So however many things you want. So the important part here is that you're saying, for whatever element you're defining over here, you are saying what that element is. So this is like free to do whatever you want, because for example, I don't know, you are defining something like a UI view, and this UI view has a bunch of like elements in it, but you are registering touches on this view, and then you want to provide an action. So maybe on that UI view, you would add the accessibility trait button, so you know that you can click this, and the software knows that it's a button, that you can tap it and that you can do anything with it. Accessibility hint. This is basically you're describing what this thing does. Like in my case with a button, you're saying like, okay, this is like you can buy something, like you are confirming your purchase by pressing this button. Fairly simple. And value, this can be for literally anything. So like, what's the current value of the element? Like maybe with a button here is not it's not so clear, but I'll give an example. You have a toggle, a check mark. Like you have a check mark. The value of the check mark is the check mark checked or is it not? If it's a toggle, is it on off or on? That's where you would put the value in this case. So these are like fairly simple things. So when you are building your software, these are the important parts that you have to cover when it comes to accessibility. So, and here next is the tool from Xcode that you're using to help with that. Let me see. I don't know. Okay, this is not a. I don't know if this is a GIF or not. I've forgotten. Okay, it's not a GIF. Okay. So accessibility inspector. So this is the tool provided by Apple. that helps you see what have you done, what have you achieved accessibility-wise in your software. So on the right, I mean, on the left, you can see how you can find this. The thing to the left of the side, this is the default state where it says like, okay, when you have selected that label in my example, it says like the initial information, like what it contains and what it has. And there are also like other tools aside from this, which is the important part is the audit. You can maybe see like what it has. Like this is not an example. This is just an example that I've taken from something else. It's not specifically for what you're looking at here. The audit basically tells you what is wrong with your app accessibility-wise, at least from what it can do. So yeah, you can see like it has something about like visual stuff. Like maybe the element is too small to be clicked. Maybe it's not really accessible to be selected on the screen. So the good thing here is like you run the audit with like that button in the middle, and it'll give you a whole list. If you don't have anything, congratulations, you've managed to make at least that screen accessible. So the cool thing about this here is that on the little eye icon from the whole list, it'll tell you like, okay, like in detail, like what exactly on the screen is that referring to, and it's like saying like this element has like the problem for this element is this, and the cool thing with the question mark added that it'll also give you a hint, or well, maybe actually also the whole answer, like okay, because maybe you have a button that is too small, you have to make it at least this amount of pixels width and height, stuff like that. So that's just general, like the general information. So when you're developing iOS applications, this is a tool that you'll use. This is also a part of this tool as well. So by default, yes? Sorry? F micro, where exactly is this? Oh, no, that was, I think, solely, okay, that was from the screenshot that I took. So when you have the element selected, it'll actually show it over here. So if, for example, if I did the actual screenshot correctly, if I selected the body label, it would say body label over here. If you have selected an image, it'll give you the image itself. Yeah, thank you for catching that. It's a good thing to mention. So here, like this is just a basic example of what I did for this presentation. By default, you have options to mess with the font sizes that you can apply. There are like a couple of other tools like that you can select. It can mess with the things. I think the default thing that everyone would have to pay attention when dealing with accessibility is with the fonts. Like you have a default size that you've applied, and then with the slider and also inside of the app, you can enlarge it and see what you have done. Like in this case, like I don't know, because this is just these are labels in a stack view, nothing complex, but I don't know if it's a complex screen and you have like fixed constraints where like maybe you're gonna try to go above, but then you'll see that the stuff that you've done starts clipping, and you'll see exactly how you've done. Like, I don't know, this is, when you do accessibility, when you work with accessibility, you also see like, you learn common UI UX practices, because I don't know, it's like when you deal with stuff like with fixed measurements and stuff like that, this thing will tell you exactly that you've done, that you should avoid stuff like that, like, because you can see like the default size of the text, and it can get smaller, but the large size, it's like abysmally large. So you have to make sure that you've done everything right, that this works properly. So labels specifically, in the GIF above, it just tells you like the default implementation that is done on the storyboard. On the bottom side, it's how you would do it by code. So these are by Apple. These are like the default text styles. So this is like with the default system font. Like these have each their own size. They have their own like usage. I mean, in the end, you can use them however you want. You can use them however you want, but these are just defined by Apple, like because to make sure that you're not playing with like 40 different font sizes in your app. Like these are, I don't know, like 12, something like, maybe less, 10 or something like that. Different types. So this is just to make sure that you aren't like you're not adding too many font sizes. With the default implementation, yeah, you can see it in the slide how you would apply these. So this is with the default font that's given by Apple, but you can also play with this with your own custom fonts. This is just a basic way of how you would write it. I would assume if you would do this for a whole project, you would write some sort of extensions and stuff like that. You would write your fonts in some sort of like an enum or something where you can just pull them easily and don't do all of these lines of code. But yeah, the default way of applying this with custom fonts is like this. You say like, okay, you have this font with this size, and you would want to apply this font for the body style. So yeah, this is like the sixth one from the top here. So yeah, that's how you would use this with custom fonts. I mean, everyone probably has a custom font in their software, so I would assume this is like the #1 thing to do. Personal tidbits. So this is stuff that I've paid attention to when I was building some of the software that I've worked for, as well as when researching for this. So scroll views, it's a must. I'll say this. So I'll just go back real quick. You can see in this screen, these are just 2 labels and a button. But this is like, for presentation-wise, this text is nothing. Like maybe this screen will have like in normal font size, this will have like huge text. And like, okay, this will fit the screen. This will fit the screen. That's fine. But when you enlarge the font, it's not gonna fit. So from my recommendation is just make sure that you're using scroll views almost everywhere to make sure that everything can be seen on the screen. But second point, it's just nothing. I'll just leave it as it is. Third point, for setting on an observer. So this is in case that let's say if your screen is like quite complex and you have some elements that have like fixed constraints that don't really always comply to the accessibility that you want to provide. So when you set an observer for this, you can see, okay, the user has changed the size of the font. Well, like they have used the app, they pushed it to the background, they went to the settings, they changed the font, and when you go back, you'll see that that something has changed, and you have to make sure that the visuals on the screen are according to the change, like according to the change that you've done. So it's just a little thing. Fourth point, horizontal stack views. I mean, that's it. When you're applying, I don't know, you have like, maybe you have a list of like buttons where it's like, I don't know, you have maybe it's like a list of services that you can like call, email, or a map button. So you would have them in a small buttons in like a horizontal stack view, but when you enlarge the font, like width-wise, that's it. You don't have a lot of space. So with the observer, you can at least check this to see what's the current increased size, and you can switch. My recommendation is to swap them. Well, adjust them to become vertical stack views, so you can read them out more correctly. And the last one is describe in detail. So this would be in one of the previous examples. So over here. So the last thing where it says a purchase of $4.99. So if you write it as I did right here, it's gonna read it as it is. It's not gonna say $4.99. So when you are writing the values or the accessibility labels for an element on the screen, you have to make sure to be descriptive, because the default like reading software, the voiceover, it's not gonna know what you're talking about. So if you, like, that's the example. You have like something, a label that has like 20 meters, write it in the accessibility, in the accessibility attribute as 20 meters, not just 20 m. Just to be just to be careful in these situations like this, because otherwise it's not gonna cover everything. Let's say, yeah, I'll just go to this. I don't have a lot of things to share aside from what I've done already. Are there any I'll just start it. Are there any questions, or if someone wants to share their personal experience when working with accessibility? I don't know, a couple of you raise your hands, like, have you like some sort of weird experience or some sort of trouble when you were building an application? Like anyone, something to share, maybe?